What's going on, everyone? Today we have the RX 9070 XT. This is the gaming gigabyte version of the card. We'll be pairing it with the 9800X3D and 32 gigs of RAM. All right, so here we are in Wukong. I just wanted to go through the graphic settings we have. We have FSR4 enabled. This was enabled on the latest Wukong update, and I'll have all that information down there in the description. If you cannot get FSR4 to show up, roll your driver back to 25.9.1. Instead of 25.10, whatever it is. There's a known issue, so to get FSR4 to be recognized, make sure you roll your driver back if you're not seeing it. That tends to fix the issue. Right now we're on low graphics preset, no ray tracing. Everything's currently off. We're not going to do any sort of frame generation, no low latency mode, nothing like that. Let's just jump into it. Absolutely just raw data at this point. We are at 4K resolution. And we are at 83 FPS, 86 FPS. Now, of course, it leaves a lot to be desired. This looks pretty flat, kind of looks like unfinished Play-Doh. Let's jump in here and see what we can do as far as the settings go. Everything here, I just wanted to show you real quick, we are at 4K. All right, so get that out of the way. And let's see here, we are at FSR4. Let's go down here and just kick on medium. We're just going to work through it and see kind of how it fares without any sort of upscaling help at all as we traverse through these different settings and whatnot. But as you can see here, we are doing very well on all of our VRAM. Everything looks really good. 1% lows and 0.1% lows are very nice. 0.1% lows of 60 FPS is great. Our frame time graph is completely and totally flat. That's exactly what we want to see. And for the most part, yeah, this is a viable setting without any sort of upscaling. Let's just jump down here and keep on going. All right, so let's come in here and go to the high setting. And right here, we are dropping down to about 67 FPS here. Let me know if you like my new metrics panel. I reworked it a little bit, gave it a little bit more spacing, got the FPS number to show up a little larger. So if you want to know how to do all that, there's a link down there as well if you want to learn how to set up the metrics panel up here and kind of take control of it yourself. Put that video together a few weeks ago. Seems to be pretty popular with folks. So, you know, as we go through all this, I want you guys to stay up to speed on what I'm doing as well. There's that little hitch that always happens when you go through that tunnel right there, or where that light is coming in. But we are staying above 60 FPS here, and that's pretty promising. We are not doing any upscaling, and you know, this thing's rocking along just fine. This update has improved performance on the cards that I've been able to test so far. You know, the 5070 did really well within expectations. You know, 4K is definitely more where this card is geared for. So we're just going to check it out here. Let's go up to very high and see how we are as far as you know, everything with no FSR upscaling at all. So we're looking really damn good. I mean, this is really promising. The 1% lows are off because of the menu. But yeah, right now we're at 61, 62 FPS. There we go. The 1% lows just finally caught up. Anytime you go into the menu, it counts it as average, and a lot of times menus dramatically lower that frame rate. So if you ever see that, that's likely what's happening. So we're still at 62 FPS. I mean, this is really quite nice. So we're just going to keep on going up to cinematic. As you see, when I came into this area, though, it did take a little bit of a hit, but still extremely promising. VRAM allocation is still well under 16, and we can just keep on going. All right, so let's jump over into it. Let's go to that big boy setting, the cinematic mode. Let's see how the 9070 XT handles this. All right, so we're at 53 FPS over here. That does tend to run slightly better in these areas that don't have any large vegetation and, you know, thick atmosphere and that kind of stuff. So get over here, and there should be some more wooded areas we can check out. So we're still at about 48 FPS though. So really, I don't see any need to upscale until possibly around maybe very high. So we're just gonna knock this guy out real quick and run through it. So let's see. Hopefully no one's, okay, there we go. All right, I'm pretty powerful right now, so these guys are easy work, light duty. All right, so let's jump in here and check out what a very high setting, or let's go very high, and then kick on that quality FSR. Let's just bring that down, and I'm gonna kind of tell you how it looks as I'm playing it. FSR4 looks incredibly sharp and very, very good. It is rivaling DLSS easily nowadays. So, you know, without too much trouble, we're at about 93 FPS here on the very high setting with just a quality upscale. So this is extremely promising. This card is doing really well on this title right now. We are at full 4K. So anything under this will run even better. We'll check out some settings as well at that 1440p resolution. Let's jump up and just keep everything the same, but kick it over to, let's see, it always does this. That's still a bug. All right, so we're going to kick it over to cinematic. All right, so we're going to go cinematic and see what that does. Now, this is no ray tracing, and, you know, as you know, get out of the way of that guy. As you know, ray tracing does tend to run a little bit better on NVIDIA hardware, but we have enough headroom. I think we're going to be okay. The 9070 XT is absolutely one of my favorite cards this generation. You know, I'm pretty brand agnostic. I like all things technology, so, you know, I call it like I see it. This is doing really, really well. All right, so 75 to 60, depending on where you're at, even up into the 80s on these smaller areas where you don't have a whole lot of atmosphere and landscape to load. But yeah, we're doing really well. I mean, this is going to be a pretty hard fight over here. There's a lot of enemies down in this area, I believe, if I know where I'm at. Let's see if I can hop down here and get over there. All right, so yeah, let's just keep going. All right, so we are pretty good as far as cinematic goes. Now, that upscale does provide a nice lift. Let's go down to 58, which is a balanced upscale. See what that does. Just want to make sure that it still looks good, and it does. It definitely looks nice and sharp. There's no issues at all. Oh man, these dudes, I do not like these guys. Let's see. Ah man, go ahead and take these guys out. All right, there we go. So yeah, there's definitely going to be some stuff over here to fight. This is the big guy. There we go. This is a little earlier area, but yeah, still fun to fight some stuff. All right, so that brings us up to about 69 FPS, so 70 FPS, 72 FPS. Yeah, this looks really good. Balance is a good setting. I just want to check it out one more time. Go down to that performance right before we kick it over and check out ray tracing. All right, so yeah, we're at performance here. We're at 80 FPS. Looks quite nice. Everything's still extremely sharp. Like I said, everything looks indistinguishable to me from what you would expect on DLSS. FSR4 is really that big of an upgrade. It looks tremendous, and I just really like it. I think it looks, you know, a very, very strong rival to DLSS for sure. But yeah, we're at 88 FPS here, and we are looking like we're ready to jump over to some ray tracing. Well, actually, let me jump down to check out 1440 real quick before I jump over to ray tracing, because it does require a restart. Let's jump over and see what that looks like here. I'm going to go to display and just kick it down to that 1440. I'm expecting it to run extremely well, so we're just going to leave it on cinematic. We're going to check this out real quick. We're not going to do any upscaling, and that still gives us 80 FPS here with no upscaling necessary. And it still looks really nice. So I do think that quality sharpens it up a little bit, and it's going to be one of those things where if you're on a 1440p monitor, it's going to look better. I'm on a 4K monitor right now, and it's definitely, you know, stretching it out. So I can tell I'm on a lower resolution. But from what I've seen so far, it does seem to look extremely good. So a native resolution monitor would look awesome, I think. So really, and to go up to let me think while I fight here. Hold on one second. I'm trying to give you my thoughts while I'm not trying to get killed. All right, I think that going down to a balanced preset on that FSR would provide still very good sharpness and still look really nice. Let's check out what quality would do for us here. And again, this is at 1440 quality. Before we jump over into the 4K ray tracing. All right, so we're at 94 FPS. Yeah, you're not going to have any problem with this card if you're not doing any ray tracing so far. You know, we'll be able to tell later. Come on. These guys are just all over the place. It's very stressful. All right, so let's jump over. and see exactly what we can expect from a straight up performance perspective here, just to get a raw number for you guys. This is a very heavily vegetated area, so this should be running, you know, kind of what you expect in one of the worst case scenarios. Got a lot of enemies, so we're definitely hitting the CPU a little bit as well. All right, so yeah, we're at 120 FPS here with a performance upscale at 1440. All right, so with all that out of the way, let's jump over and see what we can expect from a 4K perspective when it comes to ray tracing. All right, so here we are at medium with some light ray tracing. FSR is, of course, activated, FSR4. We're not doing any upscaling, so we're going to have to do some upscaling here because this is torture on this card. All right, so let's see. We are currently on low ray tracing, medium graphics preset. Let's see what we can do to get medium to run well with some upscaling. Let's just see if this helps because right now we are really struggling, and I need to fix my controller because that's going to get on my nerves. All right, there we go. All right, so this gives you 32 FPS. Now 4K with ray tracing on, unfortunately, when it comes to AMD, it's just still not quite the same. And I say that with, you know, the most neutral perspective on these cards. Absolutely, if you want to do ray tracing, if you want to get into playing games with ray tracing, you're likely going to have to go with an NVIDIA card right now, especially at 4K. But we might have a little bit better luck if you're still at 1440. So right now I'm going to kind of bounce around because going through all this stuff with these things enabled is going to be pretty much torture. So I'm going to go down to a performance upscale and see if that gives us any better results here. That still gives us 40 FPS. Now I have activated my PCL monitor up there in the top right. We're at 90 milliseconds. So if we have some FSR turned on, you know, whatever it's called, I believe it's called the low latency mode. Yep, there we go. Let's turn that on and see if that helps, because I'm going to start trying to rely on some frame generation here to kind of get us through the rest of this test. All right, so PCL is at 41 milliseconds, and this is that low latency mode, and we're sitting at about 54 FPS here. So let's just go through and see what we are doing to achieve this. All right, so like I said, this is probably not going to be super thorough because it's just torture otherwise, but I'm going to try. All right, so super resolution's on 50. That's kind of as low as I like to go when it comes to 4K, but we can definitely go lower if we need to. It's still going to look okay. All right, so low latency mode, of course, that's on. We're going to kick on, let's see, frame generation, which in this title is just auto. I guess that means 2x. I'm not really sure, but it just auto or off. Those are your two options. All right, so let's see what this does. See if we can get a decent PCL with a high enough frame rate. Absolutely smooth. I mean, way smoother. Now, my PCL is just not reporting. That's an AMD thing. It does not report whenever you're using any sort of frame generation for a lot of games. There's that traditional stutter right there in this like hallway area. But I will say that on a controller, it feels extremely snappy. It doesn't feel like there's any additional latency from the frame generation with the, you know, the low latency mode enabled in the game. And that gives you 88 FPS. So again, this is low ray tracing with with medium settings. So this is a good look with a little bit of ray tracing. I don't personally think it's worth it. I think that the ray tracing doesn't add enough visual value to justify all the resources that it's, you know, taken away from us. Let's go up to medium ray tracing, leave everything else alone, and just see what kind of hit this gives us, because if we can stay above that 60 with that FSR frame generation turned on, I feel like we're going to have a decent time. That gives us about 80, 70 FPS. This is definitely playable on a controller. I'm going to fight these dudes just so I can see what we can expect here. All right, so let's see. There we go. Right in the noggin. Sweet. All right, so yeah, that felt pretty good. Felt fluid. Felt like my inputs were definitely, you know, being listened to and responding well. So this ain't a bad setting here. If you don't mind going down to a medium preset, let's see what the full ray tracing can do on medium, because that's going to be you know, the kind of big test. So very high here. And, yeah, a bit rough. I just saw the PCL kind of flash in and out. It was at 29 milliseconds. I don't really think that's super accurate right now, but it feels okay on a controller. But 50 FPS on this kind of hardware just to have ray tracing at 4K, I don't really know about that. So we're going to have to do a few things just to see if we can get this to run correctly. All right, so we're going to bring this down. I'm just going to go to a 39%, which is a, you know, pretty hardcore upscale, and that gives us 55, 56 FPS. Now, granted, this is also the result of frame generation, so, you know, you're really probably running about 20 FPS, 25 FPS. You know, in the grand scheme of things, is that worth it? You know, I don't really know, but our 1% lows, according to the PCL up there, which is what I would probably trust in this situation, it's about 39 or so FPS. So, you know, you're looking about double with that frame generation set to auto. But is it playable? Yeah, it definitely adds a lot of atmosphere to the title. Feels pretty loose though. Like I said, I probably would not recommend playing it like this. What I would probably do is come in here. This is how I would likely play it at 4K. I'll have to play around and just see. I would definitely leave that auto turned on. It does give you good value. And very high and high look pretty good. Cinematic is like diminishing returns. Yeah, it looks really good, but I think high is the sweet spot setting for this title. So we're going to go to high. We're going to kick that ray tracing back down to low. Leave our frame generation on, leave our low latency on, and upscale to performance, which still looks really good at 4K. And let's see what that does for us as far as performance goes. We are right around 65 to 70 FPS here. It does feel pretty responsive. Again, this is the perspective of a controller on a mouse and keyboard. Let me see, I'm switching over. I just want to give you guys a pretty good idea. It feels a little bit behind on a mouse and keyboard, not game breaking, but again, for the people out there like myself who just enjoy this kind of game on a controller, you're not going to feel that. The camera moves in response to the right stick very well. It feels fine. All right, so this gives you about 90 FPS or so on these, at least in this area. And I'm going to go down to this wooded area just to give you guys a little bit more kind of harder area to take a look at. That drops us down into the 70s. So, you know, again, it's a halfway decent setting. If you want to play at 4K with some ray tracing, you can absolutely do that. Even the low ray tracing does give a little bit more polish to the atmosphere. It definitely gives it some more depth. But really where this is going to shine is going to be at 1440. So I'm going to jump over to 1440. And instantly get just a much better experience. All right, apologies for the cut and me changing clothes. Actually, I'm recording this after Halloween, so I have on my eyeliner from being the Joker tonight. So scrubbed off as much as I can, but this just will not come off. So ignore that. We're all good here. All right, so right here we are looking like 32 FPS. Let's just run through the settings here so you can know what you're looking at. All right, so we are on 1440 as you can see, and the graphics are set as follows. So we have FSR4, of course, enabled. Ray tracing is low and graphic preset is set to medium. So right now we're just going to see how this performs, run through some of this, and just keep going. So right now with that ray tracing set to low and everything set to medium without any upscaling at all, we are looking about 36 FPS here, which, you know, that leaves a lot to be desired. So let's go ahead and start doing some upscaling and see what it takes to get this to at least 60, or at least, you know, give us some insurance. That way we can continue to push this a little bit further. I'm hopeful that some upscaling will actually make a big difference. Let's go to that 67. That's a quality upscale. And let's see what that does. All right, so that gets us right to 60 with the ray tracing set to low. All right, so right now, I would probably say that to get this to continue to play normally and play as you would want it to, that you would probably have to keep pushing it and go to performance. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do that now. We're gonna click on some upscaling and see what it looks like. Let's check it at balanced just to get a good idea of what we're looking at here. That gives us about 79 FPS here. So I'm gonna try to work my way up to what I would consider probably the best way to play it. And this is a pretty good way to play it. This is nice and sharp still. Let's go through the tunnel of stutters. See if we get the stutter. There it is. The tunnel of stutters is alive and well. All right, so yeah, we are looking like 90 FPS here. Let's just go over here to this section. All right, so I'm going to kick it over to the next level of preset here. So let's just keep going. I think this game looks probably the best, around high. Or very high. You start to get diminishing returns after high, in my opinion. I think high looks really, really good, and this low ray tracing gives you some really great shadows, and your lighting looks quite nice. Go ahead and take care of this fox. There we go. He's done for. All right, so yeah, let's just keep on going here. 60 FPS looks pretty good. We're gonna have to do some frame generation, but that's okay because we're gonna be able to hopefully experience this with a little bit more of the upscaling. Let's see what this does. So this would be a performance upscale. Ray tracing is set to on. Frame generation is currently off, and we are on the high preset. Let's see if this gives us any good headroom, and it does. It gives us about 70 FPS here. Now I'm going to bring my frame view back up. I forgot to turn that on. Let me just go ahead and kick that on for us real quick so we can know what to expect. Right here, just one moment. Let me switch my mouse over. All right, there we go, peering behind the curtain. All right, so there we go. All right, so we got our frame view that pops up. So our PCL is about 26 milliseconds right now, and we're at 90 FPS, give or take. All right, so we've got plenty of headroom here. So let's go ahead and go up a little bit more on that ray tracing. Now that we're at a pretty good setting, in my opinion, as far as the look of it goes, high is kind of where I want to just spend some time and go through some of this ray tracing. We're going to leave it, of course, on a performance upscale. See what this ray tracing costs us here. All right, so that gives us still 80 FPS and a PCL of 27 milliseconds. So as you can see, we're already pulling ahead of where we were at 4K. No surprise there, but it is definitely a much better experience at 1440p than at 4K. 4K is just a bit too rough for the ray tracing to keep up on this card, but once you drop it down to 1440p with a performance upscale, you start to have a really good time. And to be honest, every card that I've tried outside of the 5090, this game wants it to be on a performance upscale. So it's just the game. It is very, very demanding still. So, don't let that be like something to deter you from a 9070 XT. Damn near any GPU I put in this machine, if you hit apply recommended settings, it's going to drop it down to performance. That's just what it does. So the game is really intended to be played at performance for 90% of the GPUs out there, 95% of the GPUs out there. All right, so let's just keep that in mind as we go through this. So yeah, we're at 67 FPS here. Let's come in here and check out what we can do. All right, still on 1440, cool. All right, so let's see what the next level of ray tracing does for us and see what we need to do to get that up a little bit. Our PCL is still pretty attractive. We're still around 43 milliseconds with a 47 FPS frame rate down there. So what I would probably do at this point is just kick on that FSR frame gen, and we're going to lose access to our PCL. It just doesn't work on AMD cards whenever you enable frame generation, but what we're going to do is just see what that does for us and go from there, because once you turn that on, you should be able to keep the frames high enough, especially with this upscaling here, to go ahead and max it out. We'll see though. So let's go ahead and turn on that frame generation. So this is with full ray tracing and a high preset. And as you can see, we've got some really beautiful reflections showing in this water here. I definitely think that the ray tracing looks pretty good in this game. If you can play with ray tracing, it definitely adds some depth to it. It's not like groundbreaking or anything, but it does add a lot more realism to it, in my opinion. You know, I mean, you can go all the way up to cinematic, but if you don't have any ray tracing, you know, it definitely has a different look to it. Not a bad look, it's just different. But this gives us 93 FPS here. Let's just keep on going and seeing what we can expect. So with our ray tracing completely maxed out, we're going to answer the question today. Now, if you can pull off very high with ray tracing fully maxed out with the frame generation, this is a really good experience. I mean, this feels super fluid. I'm on a controller. Let me switch over to the mouse though, just to get a good idea, so I can tell you guys how it feels. But yeah, I mean, we're feeling pretty good. I mean, there is no sloppiness, in my opinion, at all with this mouse. It feels maybe the slightest bit rubber bandy, but it is not bad at all. I mean, it's definitely something that you can adjust to if you were to play this title with a mouse and keyboard. I prefer a controller for games like this. That's just me. So if you're on a controller, you're going to have absolutely no problem at all. I mean, this feels really, really good. You know, I would never hesitate to play like this at all with that frame generation turned on, if it let you go all the way up, you know, as high up as we are here. Let's go ahead and max it out and just see what we can expect. So let's go that cinematic. So this would be kind of the big boy setting. This is very high, which is the highest ray tracing you can go to. Cinematic, and then we have frame generation on with FSR4 and a 50% resolution upscale, which is performance. And that still gives us over 60 FPS here. So, you know, it just kind of goes to show that you can make it happen if you pull out all the, you know, kind of magic tricks here. Now, I will say that I can tell the latency is a little bit worse, ever so slightly, even on a controller. So, you know, it's up to you. It depends on what. All right, we did have a crash, so we are back at it. And for what it's worth, we had a similar crash with the same settings on the 5070 video. So it could be something with the game, not necessarily the card. But I was able to get a quick, you know, reboot in there and get started here. So we are back at it. We're on cinematic, which gives this like kind of ethereal looking sort of haze to the grass and stuff, which I'm not sure if you'd be into that or not. So maybe going back to very high would be a preference. You know, it does have a little bit different look when it comes to cinematic in certain areas, which I've just started to kind of notice. So it's just maybe a preference thing. But yeah, with that frame gen turned on and the performance upscaling, we're maintaining 60 FPS most of the time. There are areas where it will dip, but for the most part, though, this would be a pretty good experience. You know, you would just have to kind of get used to the fact that you might not have 60 FPS in every single area. So, you know, if you keep that in mind, you won't be disappointed. The way I would probably run it, though, just to make sure that things stay smooth, I would probably just keep that performance upscale. Keep the frame generation on, and I would just kick all this down to high on my graphics preset and then medium on my ray tracing. I think that provides you a very, very similar look to everything completely maxed out without the need to just destroy your hardware. You know, I mean, if you're running into stuff that's causing it to crash, you know, then you might want to back off some of these settings a little bit just to get you a nice experience. But I mean, this looks visually almost identical. There's our Hall of Stutters, the Cavo Stutters is what I call it. But yeah, the main thing is, you know, you can absolutely run it at 4K if you keep your ray tracing probably on that low. But here at 1440p, you can really stretch it all the way up to max settings if you're used to, you know, using performance and you're okay with using frame generation. But in my opinion, this would be the best setting here, would just be high with, you know, that ray tracing set down here to the medium. So just go medium here, high here, and then 50% there, and then turn your frame gen and your low latency mode on, and you should be good. This is a really, really good looking way to play it, and it gives you some really nice performance. Yeah, everything's super responsive. It looks incredibly good, and your reflections and all that stuff still look quite nice. It's not the full ray tracing reflections, but mainly the shadows are getting pumped up and really looking nice with that low ray tracing setting. So that alone gives you a lot more depth to the overall visual experience. So in my opinion, this would be probably how I would play it for the duration of the experience. But yeah, if you're into this kind of stuff, drop me a subscribe, a like. Everything goes a long way. And if you would like to become a member, you can participate in our weekly member polls, in which you get to vote on the game and the GPU that I test. So I'll take all those votes, put them together, and see who wins, and then that will be added to the cycle of testing that I do for the following week. So it's a good way for us to interact, and it's only $1 a month, and it helps support me doing what I do. None of this stuff is cheap at all, so I'm really hoping that this channel winds up paying off, because I've got some bills I need to cover from buying all these GPUs. But if you could help me out with that, that would be amazing. And until next time, stay safe, stay happy, and we will see you in the very next video. Peace.